everyone, and thanks for joining us. This is episode 4 of the Better Products Podcast, and I'm really excited about this podcast because we decided to try something a little bit different. We have an employee of Tapecon, a longstanding employee, Dave Shoemaker, joining us, and I'll give a quick title intro for Dave, and then Dave, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself on your own and tell us about yourself. But Dave Shoemaker, Senior Manufacturing and R&D Engineer at Tapecon. He's been with us for a long time, capital L or all capitals on the long. So Dave, I'll let you say the big number, but thanks for being on the podcast, Dave, and trying something new, because up to this point, I've been interviewing some suppliers of our raw materials, and I think this is going to be an interesting episode because it's going to bring a little bit more, I'd say, internal perspective from Tapecon. So I'll stop talking and just, Dave, tell us about yourself and your role at Tapecon.
And thank you, Steve. But one fun thing that I look at is every time I look out the front window, I was actually born right across on is right now, and that was in 1960. So I'm a long founding member of the area, so that's kind of a fun thing to play with. Anyways, it was 1983 when I started for Tapecon. We had, I believe it was 17 employees at the time. And my capabilities that I brought here was die cutting. And I worked in the die cutting department for about 3 years. But I always had a strong passion for all the capabilities that Tapecon had. And they had a lot, even at that time. And I think your father saw this passion within me. And before too long, I found myself dabbling in all the capabilities Tapecon had to offer. And as I learned, I became the go-to guy for new opportunities. I often find myself at a crossroads of the customer or prospect's needs and Tapecon's capabilities. It's my job to figure out how to combine suppliers, materials, and Tapecon manufacturing processes to achieve the desired outcome.
You've been with us for such a long time, and you've seen the evolution kind of through the organization of all the different capabilities coming in and out. But yep. when that new opportunity comes in from a brand owner, it's like, okay, that initial kind of review of it. I mean, we can't say yes to everything. I mean, sometimes things come in here and they're just not a fit. You know what I mean? And so sometimes, I kind of joke, sometimes we have a yes problem at Tapecon where we always say yes to a lot of things and we probably don't say no enough. But that whole crossroads of like, when do we decide to pursue it? When we don't decide to pursue it? So I wanted to just kind of like frame this conversation and introduce the concept of manufacturing readiness levels or technology readiness levels, there's a couple different ways to think of it, but that concept has been brought to me doing research on it. Of course, it started back in 2005. Department of Defense brought this in, but where I started getting exposed to TRL, MRL like levels was some of our engagement with some of the startup community, or some of the universities have started to use reference to manufacturing readiness levels. I'll say how to place the level of maturity of an opportunity in a continuum, in saying like, okay, what do they need? What stage are they in? And we started to use this terminology in our company. And I know that you've started to use the terminology too, or at least it's a way to communicate internally and or with the opportunity coming at us on where to place them. So I just wanted to kind of frame that. And so given that concept of manufacturing readiness level terminology and the fact that you're really like, I'll say, the front lines of the technical feasibility side of the opportunities and whether we say yes, how do you assess those opportunities when they come in the door?
Well, the best way is just sitting down and having that conversation. I mean, I like when, the salespeople will set up a meeting to where the customer actually comes here, sees their facility, and then they have an actual, either a sample with them or they have some blueprints or something a discussion point, if you will. It's really great to get into all the details that I have, identifying what they're looking for with regards to materials, how this is going to be manufactured, what the possibility of maybe even packaging. We have some to where we have to get packaging involved as well. We use outsourcing partners to do that, but we get it done. We have that competency and that availability to meet all their needs. So yes, I like bringing the customer in here and actually having that sit down upfront conversation with them. Virtually now we have to do it, virtually, unfortunately, with this epidemic. But in the past, I mean, it was good to have that face-to-face, that handshake, of acceptance on all the things that we've done. I got to mention that you do lose a lot of the detailed stuff that you can show a customer, of how things go through the press or how this will happen. And they really get a better understanding when they're there firsthand, actually able to see it. And you're right, sometimes you can't capture that virtually. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but we're getting through it.
Well, it's going to be interesting where the technology goes. I mean, because it's going to accelerate, the use of whatever, augmented reality, virtual reality. Like, here, I'm going to walk you virtually over here. Let's take a look how your process is going to run. I mean, who knows? I mean, we're obviously exploring a lot of those types of technologies right now. And all I can think of is that this pandemic is just going to accelerate them. So I'll move on to the next question, because obviously I know there's a lot we want to get to. But when you talk about, or when I talked about the continuum, like it can be really early, really late in that MRL readiness levels. How early have you seen people approach us, and how early in that manufacturing readiness level have people come to us?
Well, I would have to say very early, because I remember one project, I think it was right around 2004. It was actual walking off the street. It was a gentleman looking for a company that could guide him along. He had 2 plastic housings that he was trying to connect, and they had to be connected in a sterilized environment, but he didn't want to use a sterile room to do it. He wanted the part to be self-sterile, to be contained in a sterile environment. And it was kind of challenging to listen to that. So he was searching for a company that can help him advance his readiness, his product readiness level. He was, like I said, he was looking for us to connect these 2 plastic housings, but still keep that sterilization of the contact points in check. This construction was used for a medical fluid transfer device. And it was kind of unique to the industry. I had never seen anything like it. And before too long, we had the conversation, and we talked about the material choices that were available for him. And we talked about what the functionality was. And as he was talking, I'm drawing pictures and all this stuff. And before too long, we had a proof that readiness level. And granted, he was very overwhelmed by these prototypes, and he decided to move forward with us. And we worked through all the technology and materials, and I'm very happy to say that this is a product that we are making quite a few products on a monthly basis every day. We're making this product still today. I mean,
yeah, when I was looking at like the manufacturing readiness levels, an MRL 4 is like that laboratory environment proof of concept prototype. But then when you get up to an MRL 5, we're into more like a production relevant of a component of that material. And if you're telling me, I'm just listening to you tell the story, it sounds like it's like a napkin sketch on a piece of paper.
That's exactly where this
thing started. Which obviously it seems like I would put that, almost MRL 3 into MRL 4, because we haven't even made anything yet other than just, it's almost a conceptual idea at that point. But I mean, he must have at least he must have conceptualized what that proof of concept should consist of. And then from there, it sounds like we just kind of, I don't know, in a lab scale, either cutting with scissors on raw materials or whatever, be able to manifest itself into that initial proof of concept prototype. How crude was it?
No, actually what he had the actual plastic fittings that he was trying to connect. And he said that what he wanted to end up with, how it was packaged, it was shrink wrapped around the housing, and he wanted these things, these 2 connections, or these 2 plastic housings, to be already connected together with just the ports that come out that connect the hose to it, because again, it's for fluid transfer. But the points of contact had to be kept in check with being sterile at all times. So we developed, and I can't talk about the process in details, but we developed a method that was able to encompass that. And he called it after I sent him the sample. He says, "You, what did he say? You made the first portable clean room. Thank you very much." He was like, "Let's move on." He says, "I'm not going anywhere else. Let's get this going." And he got pretty excited over it. And like I said, this just evolved, and we finally made it. He took it to market, and like I said, we're still making a lot of product today.
So let's talk about, I guess, the persona of that, I'll say, inventor, for lack of a better term, who's approaching us in their early stage in this readiness level, and the individual that's coming in, they're going to have a big wide array of experiences and backgrounds. I mean, we've had people approach us for projects that are, straight out of either in university or straight out of university with very little work experience in the real world, and therefore, that's what they bring. And other people, been in the industry or been in manufacturing 20, 30 years, and they're much more prepared. So how do you, I guess, tailor the approach that you take when you take that initial phone call? So our sales team has identified this. We've evaluated this as an opportunity worth pursuing. You're usually tapped on the shoulder when it's time to kind of look into technical feasibility of it. But how do you tailor your approach based on, I guess, who's in front of you and what their level of experience is?
Well, it's usually, the customer is usually the one that I'm talking to, but it really depends on who the customer is and what resources they have. Because many times I like to talk to the, if they have a engineering team that's helping them develop this, I like talking directly to the person that's going to be building this for them, because then we get greater details on, what it's going to take to end up with a good result. And that brings me back to another project that I was working on, where it was some college graduates that came to us looking for, they developed this chemistry that they were trying to get it out on the market. And what it was used for is, if you can get it onto a material, it would identify when sun worshipers needed to reapply suntan lotion. And they seen a need for it, and they did a lot of research. In fact, they won numerous awards out of Canada and the US for this invention of this chemistry. The only problem that they struggled with was, how do they make it work? How do they put it on a material? How do they apply it to a person's body so that it can, when sun hits it, it says, "Hey, you need to change or need to add some suntan lotion." And so they came to Tapecon with us with that challenge. And, we talked them through it, and we, found out what this chemistry was all made up of. And we used partnerships with other companies that had coating capabilities of putting this chemistry onto a piece of material. Well, there was more to it than that. They wanted an advertisement of their product name and different media on this stuff. So we were not only able to make this product so that it was feasible to put different names on it. If he wanted to promote some other technology, some suntan lotion company, he could sell that rights off to use their product to these companies. So we developed a process that was able to not only have that substance coated on the material, but then we were able to convert it into a easy to use, peel and stick onto skin. And they use it now and they're using it throughout the world. I hear, he tells me different countries that he's applying this to and selling it to, and it's virtually throughout the world. So kudos to them on doing a great job with developing this chemistry. And we were just able to help in their manufacturing process.
I want to unpack, I guess, the flow of information. Like you're describing, you're telling the story, and I'm thinking about, what type of information is presented, that they're presenting you with, and sometimes that information, I'm sure, is incomplete, or the wrong questions are being asked. So what type of information exchange is happening between you and a company like this in the early onset of these projects? And I guess, what can you glean? What can you glean from that, or what are you providing them to help them along the way if they need help?
Well, actually, I'm looking for, as I said, we sit down and we have that face-to-face conversation. That's all it is, just like we're having right now. And they're telling me about the details of, what they're looking for. Are they wanting this product to last outside? What their environmental conditions may be? Are there any regulatory issues that we need to be concerned about? there's a multitude of different things. We have stuff that goes on cars. I mean, you name an industry and we're in it. And it's kind of difficult to list every type of situation, but
because there's so many different questions to ask. But I mean, how many people are coming with blueprints, without blueprints? What would be the ideal thing for someone to come with us? We've talked about detailed design packages and what does that constitute, but I guess in a perfect world, what are they bringing to that initial meeting and that face-to-face meeting?
Well, what we hope to see is blueprints or any conceptual sample that they have. And it could be just a crude scissor cutout on paper type thing, just so that we can get a better understanding of what they're looking for and what the end product's what they're trying to achieve with that. And yes, we have, over the years, we have developed an application capture form that, it has intentional questions on it that helps us determine what the customer needs and where their technology and manufacturing levels are. So there's more to it than just that list. I mean, it depends on what stage they're going through. I mean, just like, some customers come to us where it's a development stage, like I said about the suntan lotion guy. The group came to us and, we needed to provide them with training, the pros and cons of different materials, different adhesives, what works on skin, what can peel off without affecting a young person's skin versus an older person's skin versus a child or a baby's skin. And we needed to train them and teach them on that. And, they needed to fully understand, and we needed to fully understand their expectations. Like I said, what environment is it going to be exposed to? Heat plays a lot, and that UV plays a lot on materials and can really affect the quality and the performance of it. So, we need to teach them, what actually is going to happen once they give us this order. We brought them in here and actually went through step by step what our manufacturing process was going to be, and that's why I said it's great to have the customer actually in here, because then you can get into a lot more details of where, when, and how these things are going to happen. That's, like I said, that's only during the development stage, but then you get into, there's different stages, such as the introduction stage. The customer might have a product that's already developed, but they just don't understand how to build it. And they need to find a facility that can show them or either guide them through, either manufacturing themselves or maybe even using other vendors to, do a team approach on manufacturing their products. Then, you get into the further developed ones where you have the growth stage, and that's where we really shine, I think, because this is where they're looking for volume requirements. They want someone that can provide, a lot of product in a certain amount of time and get it done and get it on the shelf. And that's where they come to us, and we develop that partnership with them, and it works out very well. Then later on in their growth stage, they get into a more mature area where a lot of times they're just looking for, okay, we need to save money, we need to cut down costs, and we look for ways and methods of doing that. But we go beyond that a lot of times. Sometimes they're looking for another solution, or maybe they need a branding idea that will help set their product apart from others and make people look at theirs in a different light, They might even be, looking for, and I've seen it happen, to where they want someone to manage their overall process, their overall product, because they need to focus on looking at new products or maybe new or upgrading their current product and to develop new opportunities. And, that's where we like guiding them, is to help grow with the customer. We want to become part of the customer's team.
Yeah, it's like as you're talking about this, I'm just thinking about from a product manager standpoint. So the people that we're serving, every product that's being sold has a life cycle. Like you're in a life cycle. You're launching it for the first time. I'd love to wave a wand and have every opportunity to come in and be in a growth phase. That'd be nice, right? Because all of our problems are like, how do we scale this up and sell massive quantities of these things? But then there's growth, then there's maturity, and then maybe they have to retire a project or retire and replace it. So I guess listening to you talk, I'm just thinking about how you kind of have a radar on what stage that product's in, which then might change, I guess, how you treat it, right? Questions might change, different questions,
correct.
right? So it's kind of like adapting to what stage the life cycle, or what stage of the product life cycle's in, might change the various types of questions that we're asking or handle it differently, right?
Oh, absolutely,
A lot of
absolutely.
people seem to be looking for cost downs. Can you speak more, I guess, to that cost reduction opportunity where if someone's coming in, maybe we've been making it, maybe a competitor's making it, and for whatever reason, they found their way to our doorstep. How do you, yeah, I'd like to hear more about that in terms of cost downs seem to be everyone wants to cut costs. So how do we approach those types of opportunities that come in where I'd say it's a mature product if I'm going to put it in a life cycle. It's mature and they want to milk as much margin out of that product. No future plans for any major redesign of the product, but let's just improve margin. That's the business objective. So let's talk about cost reduction. How do we handle those situations?
Well, in many cases, we have to look at the overall product. Is there any room for, or is it conceivable to make changes to, let's say, materials? In a lot of cases, many things are sometimes, and I don't know if I should say this, but they're overbuilt. You get a group of engineers together that overbuild something, they put a dimension and tolerance behind things that are not only really odd and unconceivable, but it just doesn't really work for that product. And, we'll have a conversation with the customer about those topics and about those issues, looking for ways to cut costs. There might be, dies that are related. Can we go with a less expensive, and I'll talk out solid, a solid die versus a mag tool, which is a thin plate that we use. That's a big cost savings right there if we can change that aspect of the manufacturing process. But we also, like I said, we look into different materials. We look at volume structures. Are they willing to, and are they capable of taking a larger volume and putting it on shelves for future use? Because everything is based on materials. Materials have a cost to them, and as well as customers have to get from us, we have to buy from our suppliers the minimum buys on materials, and that's where we have to buy what they call master rolls and whatever the case may be. But there's volumes that we have to uphold to, and we have to have it come out of our pocket. We have to purchase these materials. So in essence, we have to pass that cost on in order to make money and keep everybody profitable.
The brand owner can be their own worst enemy. It's like everyone wants to the default of any engineer is conservatism, especially if the risks that they face is they're the ones who have to deal with the defect or whatever. And I understand that people want repeatability and they want to reduce variation and everyone would love, really tight or I should say really high number process capability numbers and CPK numbers. But how do you have that conversation where the tolerances, they can become their own worst enemy? And so what can we share, or what's that dialogue like to try to open up a tolerance?
Well, we ask them, where is this actually being used? And the discussion point gets into, how critical are those, for this application. A lot of times they're just putting a label on it as they're putting their name on the product to claim fame to owning this product. And they'll have they might have a textured area, but then they have a smooth area that's recessed in, and they want that to fit, that label or that part to fit down into that recessed area. And they'll give us a tolerance of plus or minus 5 thousandths. It's like, are you kidding me? When you put it on there, you can't see those edges of that recessed area. It could be a 16th off, and a regular consumer would never see the difference. However, we hold much tighter tolerances than that. Our tolerances, our baseline tolerances, 10 thousandths, we hold all day long. That's without batting an eye. We do hold much tighter tolerances than that, but it all depends on the application, where these things are going, how they're going to be, what the performance of them need to be, and what's the end product going to look like and how it's going to perform.
Yeah, it's like any one of all these considerations, we could head down rabbit holes discussing the details of every single one of them and spend 4 hours talking about this. Mm-hmm. But So I'll try to get this into somewhat of a wrap up. But I mean, I think obviously just the exploration of these new opportunities that come in, and all the considerations or questions that we're asking, placing them in a maturity level, and then I guess giving our audience kind of a perspective, our perspective in terms of being the manufacturer, where what we're thinking about as those are coming through the door. So any final parting words, Dave, or any words of wisdom that you want to impart on the audience as far as the conversation that we've had?
Well, we talk about, incoming new customers, and, it's all part of, taking care of the customers that we do have, because it's not a smooth flight once they develop, and once we develop a relationship with them and we have a product that we're building. It's not a smooth flight all the time. In fact, one of the customers that we currently have, they came to us with an issue one time where they were having some problems with the materials that we were supplying them, that they called out. It wasn't a material that we suggested to them. They called out the material that we were using, and they were having some shorting issues. It was an electronic component that it was shielding. And the materials that was being used, they found out through testing on their behalf, that it was a shorting issue and it was something that I never heard of or never thought that it could even do this, but outgassing of the material was causing this short. And I was intrigued, because this is a new thing for me, which I learn every day in this job. This is awesome to have something like this. And Steve, I'm telling you, we've did probably 30, 40 different samples of these different materials that they brought in, and every one of them failed. Well, before too long, they said, they reached out and they said, "Hey, Tapecon, and I hear this all the time. You guys are the experts. You can make something stick to water. Tell us how." And so they reached out to us and asked us if we could help them find a material. Well, after many trials, or after many conversations that we've had with vendors, and communication with the customer, and testing, we finally found a solution for them. And I'm happy to say that our manufacturing for services are now found on Mars. I find that just amazing. To talk to somebody about the different applications that we get into. I remember when I first started here, I remember telling people, "Yeah, we make bumper stickers that you go in," and it's like, "Bumper stickers now? Are you kidding me?" We make stuff that's going out in space and on different planets. This is like a whole new concept, a whole revelation of different things coming to and making Tapecon available to. It's unbelievable. I just got to say that, it's been a real treat to start out where Tapecon started, and seeing the growth potential the growth that actually happened, that occurred during my time here. And it's just been overwhelming, to be honest with you. It's been a great experience. I've learned a ton of things, and still am learning. Even though I've been here for 37 years, I'll walk out on the floor after this meeting and I'll learn something new today. That's what I find so exciting about this job and this place.
That's awesome, Dave. I appreciate you sharing that. It's because you've been in the role for a while, and you've seen a lot of different things. But obviously, just listening to you talk, you got the energy coming out. Like, I'm fired up just listening to you talk. So I appreciate you sharing all that, and thanks for being on the podcast. I mean, it was pretty. Wasn't really sure where it was going to go, but I'm glad we had a chance to talk about a whole bunch of different things. And so I guess we'll wrap it up here. So thanks again, Dave, for being on the podcast, and for everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one. So that's it. Signing off. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thank you. Take care.